Your List of Comic Reflections, episode 230. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valdez.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other neat content at theouthousers.com.
And remember, you can always find us, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. And if you really like us, you can rate and review us on both those platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Jesse Starcher. He's a friend of the show, fellow podcaster. He hosts Source Material. He had gallbladder removal surgery this week, and just want to wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
And a bit of sad news in this week. Last week, Murphy Anderson died at the age of 89.
Yeah. And just for your information, you probably already have it, but let's be honest. It's always great to get it. Murphy Anderson was an excellent, prolific inker.
And penciler for DC,
right.
mainly for DC. A legend in comics.
Yeah. So you can really see his stuff if you're looking at our run on Green Lantern.
On the covers, he's inking a lot of Gil Kane's covers.
Mm-hmm. He was paired up with Kurt Swan for a long time on Superman.
Yeah, in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, you get the title of Swanderson.
Yeah, the fans kind of gave him a portmanteau of that, and I like that a lot.
Yeah. And
the Swanderson art is really beautiful. It's not a great period for Superman stories.
Right.
The 70s is just a bad decade for Superman, unfortunately. But they're beautiful to look at.
Right. So if you want an idea of who you're looking at most of the DC heroes from the Silver Age.
Yeah.
He inked and probably even penciled a lot of them, especially for the covers. Of those books. He did interiors, but
he inked. I think Jeff and I are working on the Silver Age Justice League books, and he's inked it's Mike Sekowsky penciling the covers and Anderson inking all of them.
Right.
Murphy Anderson. Oh, go ahead.
His run with Carmine Infantino
on the Flash is great, and also, and maybe even better, arguably, is his work with Infantino on Adam Strange in Strange Adventures.
Right, yeah.
His stuff on the Spectre, his Hawk. He penciled and inked Hawkman.
Yeah.
That stuff's great.
Yeah. Very
prolific. He'll be sorely missed.
Definitely. One thing that's kind of always surprising to me is hearing about these guys who are passing away now.
Yeah.
Because they're all reaching about 89, 90.
Yeah, Joe Sinnott just turned 89. I think I misspoke. I mentioned it on one of the shows with Jeff last week. I think I said he only turned 84. 89.
Oh, wow, yeah. Stan Lee is getting up there.
He's over 90 now.
Yeah. And so
Steve Ditko is 87 and still making comics.
Still working.
I mean, that's rare, though. Usually it's these guys that are really up there. They might be doing some sketches or something, or very limited work, because they're very old men.
Right. I think the most recent thing I saw with Murphy Anderson was about 2011.
Right. He did some new covers for the DC. What were the series? It's a Crisis on Multiple Earths series of trades.
I think so.
Yeah, I know Alex Ross did some covers. I think Murphy Sanders did the Crisis on Multiple Earths, that subset of trades, the team-ups.
The team-ups, yeah.
Yeah, which I need to get all of those.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Because those are really important stories.
If we had $1 for every time we said we needed to get something, we'd be able to afford all the somethings that we want.
Getting close there, yeah. I mean, comics is the best bottomless pit that I could be into. I used to collect toys, and that's just it's a bottomless pit.
Right.
I'll just something I can't do anything with.
Yeah.
Like comics, I'm okay, I am participating in this because I'm participating in fandom doing the show.
Yeah.
But when reading comics it's better than watching TV because you're just a voyeur.
Right.
With comics, it's like book reading.
Yeah.
Only with pictures. but no, I like the participatory factor of engaging in the material.
And the fact that you can go out and actually meet these people sometimes.
Yeah. Some of the biggest thrills of my life, getting to meet and talk to, Neil Adams or Michael Golden, Mike Zeck, George Perez, who was Prince.
Our good friend Stephen Grant.
Well, I talk to Stephen Grant quite a bit on the internet. Who he is great, but I was just thinking people I've met in person.
Right.
And there's more. But yeah, no. Comic fandom.
I met Matt Fraction before he was a big guy.
Well, he was right as he was starting to blow up, and that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, he's been on Jimmy Kimmel now, and you know, things like that. It's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see comic creators on late night talk shows that aren't Stan Lee.
Right.
You know, because can you think of one other than Rob Liefeld on the Dennis Miller Show from the 90s? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh man, watch it. It's on YouTube.
Okay. But yeah, Stan Lee, of course, is going to go. I mean, anytime there's a MCU movie out, they're going to pull him out of the...
I watched we should get into the comics very soon, but I watched this clip of Alan Thicke from
Growing
Pains, the dad on Growing Pains. He's a great TV dad. I liked Alan Thicke. He had a talk show in the 80s called Thick of the Night, which is totally... That's not an expression. That's a total mixed metaphor. But anyway, and I watched this. It was on YouTube. They just had a segment where Stan was on there.
Oh, wow.
It was interesting how, like, disinterested Alan Thicke was in the whole subject of comics. Yeah. But anyway, it's just a thing.
Canadian.
Hey, Canada's great.
Yeah.
Unless you're John Byrne. You're a jerk. But you're a great artist. But you're a jerk, John Byrne.
All right, so let's jump into our comics.
Yeah, that's right. So we're still in the supervillain team-up essential volume. But the first issue we're going to talk about today is Avengers number 154. Cover dated December of 1976. Cover art penciled by Jack Kirby and inked by Al Milgrom. Milgrom, great editor and writer and just kind of jack of all trades at Marvel. But a good choice to ink Kirby. His pencil style really is kind of emulates Kirby.
Gotcha.
So I think it's a good choice. Let's look at that cover. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's nice to see Kirby doing the Avengers again.
Yeah,
this is like 1976. Kirby's returned from DC because he went in like at 70 or 71, and where he was there for I think 4 years, and he's back at Marvel doing covers and a lot of covers and then some series work, but more offbeat things.
Right.
So, but we'll talk about that stuff later.
Yeah. So the cover has Captain America. That's
Wonder Man.
Scarlet Witch and Iron Man
and the Vision.
And the Vision, right.
Facing off against Attuma.
Attuma, that's right.
It's not Attuma. Oh wait, it's totally Attuma. Okay, it's Attuma. But anyway, the story is called When Strikes Attuma, written by Jerry Conway, penciled by George Perez, and inked by Pablo Marcos. Oh, one other thing I wanted to note. A couple years after this, Jerry Conway and Al Milgrom co-created Firestorm at DC.
Okay.
And Al Milgrom penciled that book. It ran for 5 issues in the 70s, and then it got a new book that ran like through the whole decade of the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this story actually picks up in kind of the middle of kind of an arc with the Avengers.
Well, so it's referencing things that have happened in the Avengers, but this is where supervillain team up is crossing over to the Avengers. It's going to cross over for several issues with Avengers.
Yeah.
So
we start off with
the Vision.
Yeah, the Vision. He's kind of flying. He has this crown that they've taken from.
The Serpent Crown.
The Serpent Crown. Yeah, they've taken the Serpent Crown and he's dumping it in the Pacific Ocean to lose it, so like no one will find it.
Think about the Serpent Crown. The Serpent Crown came back again in either the late 80s or the early 90s. There was a crossover in the summer annuals called Atlantis Attacks, and the Serpent Crown was kind of the MacGuffin, if I remember correctly, of that storyline, that event. And of course, Atlantis Attacks. Oh, surprise! It's Attuma again.
Right.
But yeah.
So they get the just kind of like looking back a little bit. They steal the Serpent Crown from the Living Laser.
Oh, the Living Laser, who was probably at this time... He's an Iron Man villain.
Okay.
But I think in the 70s, by that time, he was a member of the new Masters of Evil.
Yeah.
I think...
Yes.
Which would have... I can't remember if that's Egghead's version of the Masters of Evil or it's the second Baron Zemo. Right. I'm a little fuzzy on that.
Okay. So, just for some kind of, like, reference, Wonder Man is recently back from the dead.
Yeah. Now he died in a classic storyline in an early issue of Avengers. He was created to infiltrate and destroy them. A guy given powers, but Zemo, the original Baron Zemo, gave him powers, but he could like kill him if he was going to disobey him. He had it like kind of like a failsafe. And Wonder Man turned against Zemo and saved the Avengers from death, and then died.
Yeah.
So that's the real Reader's Digest version of that story.
Right. So
but it's a classic.
Wonder Man is back.
Yay!
The Wizard is injured, or is kind of dying, but he needs immediate medical help.
Yeah, the Wizard will, spoilers, he's going to live through this arc because I remember the issue where he dies.
Oh, okay.
He dies in the Vision and the Scarlet Witch's first limited series in the 80s, which is awesome. I believe Bill Mantlo wrote it, and it had the beautiful, I can't remember, I think Sal Buscema penciled it, but don't quote me. But I know Aiken and Garvey inked it, and it just was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a great limited series, one of my favorite comic reads ever. You should seek it out. But the Wizard was one of the Golden Age heroes at Marvel.
Okay.
And he fought in World War II. They say he's, in this storyline, they say he was a member of the Liberty Legion, which are the heroes that stayed stateside.
Right.
But I remember, and maybe incorrectly, remember him having adventures with, Namor and Captain America and the Torch overseas.
Okay.
So
that sounds like the Invaders.
It is the Invaders.
Okay.
Before the Invaders got retconned into the Invaders, they were the All-Winter Squad, and they had two issues in the late 40s, and the Wizard and Miss America were part of that team. Okay. So I'm getting things a little blurred here.
Gotcha.
And I think Roy Thomas caused the blurring. Roy, I love you, but you're confusing the crap out of me. But anyway, he and Miss America had a child who was profoundly retarded and also a very powerful mutant, Nuclo.
Okay.
That will get mentioned here, but not much. Miss America died. Robert Frank, who was the Wizard, lived. He's a little touched. He's a little in his dotage.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He's kind of losing it a little bit upstairs. Yeah. He erroneously believes that Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch are his children.
Right.
And they are not.
Right.
So that's a thing.
Okay. So that's all.
And they think he's their father.
Okay.
So
that's our backup stuff for this issue.
That's some background stuff. I'll let you go. There's just a lot of stuff to know.
Right.
That's me digging way back.
Yeah. So as the Vision is flying, he's taken down by a crew in a ship.
Yeah.
And he's captured by Attuma, and he's beaten up. He's beaten into. It's hard to say that for like an android because
they beat him up real bad. It's different. How can you tell that a synthezoid is really injured?
Right, and I mean, obviously he's going to tell you.
But his body's more durable than a person's, big time. He's really, really powerful.
Right.
I mean, the Vision could go toe-to-toe with Thor or the Silver Surfer. Mm. I mean, and hold his own.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but in the ensuing battle between Attuma and the Vision's taken down, and he's knocked unconscious, and he's going to be used later in Attuma's plan. Right, because
he's basically a hostage of Attuma now.
Right. So.
Do we cut over to the Avengers Mansion?
Uh-huh.
Who's at the Avengers Mansion? It's a Cap, Wonder Man, I think the Beast is around.
Yeah, so the current Avengers in this issue are Cap, Iron Man, the Beast, the Wizard, Scarlet Witch.
Now the Wizard is not an Avenger.
Oh, is he not?
No.
Okay.
But he's hanging around.
Right, and...
Hawkeye? Is Hawkeye in this?
No.
Hank Pym.
Hank Pym.
So is he giant? Is he Giant Man or he's Yellow Jacket?
He's Yellow Jacket in this.
And then the Wasp. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I hope I'm not missing anyone.
I think you're pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Iron Man might show up at some point.
Yeah.
He was on the cover. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep track of Avengers lineups because it's always shifting.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of the same players who will kind of come in and out. Mm-hmm. And at different times. So it's, if you're just jumping in at this point, we haven't been reading all the preceding Avengers issues.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so they're not at...
This is really early in George Perez's career, too.
I keep wanting to call it the Baxter Building.
Nope, it's the Avengers Mansion. That's interesting. For somebody who doesn't like the Fantastic Four, you're calling it the Baxter Building.
But they're not actually at the Avengers Mansion. They are at a hospital.
Oh, that's right.
Because Wonder Man is bringing in the Wizard for medical care.
Because he had a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah.
And Scarlet Witch is injured. And they kind of, leave. They kind of go do their own thing. Scarlet Witch is walking around with her arm bandaged and kind of in a sling.
Right.
And a ship comes kind of flying in.
Yeah.
And Jarvis is about to shoot it down with his awesome ray gun, I guess.
Oh yeah, because they just have weapons.
Right. Yeah.
Around. I love how Jarvis. I love Jarvis.
Yeah. Scarlet Witch, hold on, my friend. They might be friendly. And out of the spaceship, or out of the ship, climbs Triton, the Inhuman.
Right.
Yeah. And so he's like, hey, I got some news. We need to talk. And so they bring him into the mansion. And as they're walking into the mansion, we get this kind of next panel with the Vision waking up in chains.
Right, and he's on Attuma's ship.
Yeah. He's waking up in chains, and he's like, oh, well, this is dumb. I'm the Vision, and I'm gonna take you out, Attuma. And so he tries, and he's like, because of the collar that he has on his neck that Attuma placed there, he's like shocked, I guess. I didn't really know what kind of what is really happening to him. It looks like shock or pain is happening in this panel, and the Vision is kind of knocked out again. But we find out that Attuma has a plan to destroy the Avengers and use the Avengers
to destroy
Namor, so he can fully rule Atlantis, and in doing so end up taking over the world.
Yeah. Do you think he has a good plan or it's a dumb plan?
It's a dumb plan.
Okay, yes. I mean, in theory, his plan is pretty good because he's got these control collars he's going to use on him. But here's the thing: if you can't defeat the Submariner on your own, you're going to take on a whole team of superpowered people and have them try to have them do your bidding to do your dirty work for you. This is going to blow up right in your face.
Well, my thought is he hasn't even given a second thought to Doom.
Which is a huge mistake.
Right. He's not my favorite villain.
Attuma?
Doom.
Oh, Doom?
He's great.
Okay.
I think he is... I think the reason he's not my favorite is because I see him as a little... This might be the wrong word. A little one-dimensional in his use. In the fact that, it's Doom. Of course everything's going to be bad. He can do anything. He has magic and technology. He can do everything.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's not interesting.
If you want a more nuanced look at Dr. Doom, I highly recommend reading John Byrne's run on the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
Which I have a trade. It's called The Trial of Galactus, and Doom. Even though it's mostly about Galactus, there's some great Dr. Doom stuff. Right. Some of my favorite stuff. But that's the stuff that made me fall in love with the character.
I'm not saying he's a bad villain. I'm just saying he's not my favorite.
Oh no, I'm just saying. This is a recommendation.
Right. I just see him as kind of we need someone super powerful. It's the same reason I'm not a fan of reading Superman books. Why do we need every other hero if we have a Superman who's,
I mean, Superman can do anything. Solve any problem. He's Superman. Yeah.
That gets old for me. And so with Doom being the ever-present bad guy is kind of okay, but there's other people they can be dealing with.
Right. I mean, there are other supervillains. Yeah. I mean, but I think... People want to write Dr. Doom, though. Okay. And he's popular. To put Doom in a book, it's going to sell a book. Okay. There's a lot of reasons that he gets used a lot. Yeah. And maybe overused. Okay. Because the Red Skull doesn't get used as much as Doom. Yeah. But I think, and many of the things that you would do with Red Skull, you end up doing with Doom. Yeah. Doom stories. I mean, you want to conquer the world. Okay. You got an evil plan. You've used super science. Okay. There's a formula there. Yeah. And you can insert appropriate villain. Mm-hmm. And I think people lean on, let's use Dr. Doom. Right.
And, I mean, if you're writing a Fantastic Four book, of course you're going to have Doom in it. Yeah. Of course.
I mean, and they have other megalomaniacal villains. They have Annihilus. They have the Psycho Man. I mean, neither of them are as good as Dr. Doom, but they're really good. Right. Yeah. So.
But I do see the biggest flaw in Attuma's plan is... one, taking over the world with Doom in it. That's the biggest problem. You can't take over the world with Doom in it. Because Doom is not going to be subjugated. No. And so...
I think here's an interesting parallel. Sea-dwelling villains that don't know a whole lot about the surface world tend to underestimate the abilities of the the surface world to combat them.
That's fair.
And I think we've seen that at DC with the Ocean Master. Doing this very similar thing. Right. And I think the Throne of Atlantis or whatever that story arc. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that was probably written by somebody who remembered this story.
Right.
You know, and all the, you know, or when Namor is against humanity, you know, it's a thing. It's almost cliche.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get back to this.
Yeah.
So we kind of get a flashback or not a flashback. We get a idea of Attuma's plan, and there's a big panel of the Avengers fighting Namor. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, are they fighting Namor? Well, it's got rounded edges on the panel, meaning that's a flashback.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a flashback. I think it might be a...
Oh, it's what he's envisioning is going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, back at Avengers Mansion, Triton and Scarlet Witch are talking, and Triton mentions...
He asks about Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And then she realizes this is an imposter because Quicksilver has been living in the Hidden Land with the Inhumans.
With the Inhumans, yeah.
In Adelan, excuse me, not the Hidden Land.
And so,
well,
like, Triton would know about it.
Adelan is the Hidden Land, so yeah.
And so she immediately turns on him and just, like, nails him with, like, a hex bomb.
And so this is a henchman...
a hex sphere, sorry.
What's this guy's name? He's a henchman of Attuma's, but he's really powerful.
Tyrak.
Yeah.
Tyrak the Treacherous.
Don't trust that guy.
Supreme. And he
has some Bootsy Collins shades.
Oh. What? Oh yeah. Yeah. When I see those kind of things, I think of
Tyrak the Treacherous looks like he's got to get over the hump. You know, like
I think of like baseball players from like the '90s with the like big wraparound
shades. Yeah.
And he has a sweet goatee.
Oh, of course he does.
So Tyrak takes out Scarlet Witch fairly easily. She's already injured. But Jarvis hears this and he's like, I let the Avengers down yesterday. I can't do it again. And so like he runs in and he's just battered by Tyrak. And the rest of the Avengers run in to see what's going on and they start to fight. And Tyrak lays them to waste. He takes out all of them. Like he smashes with his fist Yellow Jacket and Wasp. He catches Cap's shield.
Yeah.
And he just takes them all out. Captain America's the last one standing, and Tyrak brings down a wall on top of him.
Oh man.
I say he was the last one standing. He was the last one fighting. The Beast comes in.
Yeah. And
Tyrak is like, "You're gonna take me on," and the Beast runs away.
Yeah.
Like a little coward. I mean, later on we find out why he ran away, but like...
It was to fight another day, basically. But yeah,
as soon as I saw this, I was like, yeah, he's running away like a coward.
Yeah.
Because that's how we kind of end it.
Right.
That's how this issue ends. With the Beast running away and Tyrak taking the Avengers back to Atlantis.
Right.
Yeah. For Attuma to use.
Yes. So, moving on to the next part of this story, because it's this arc, I should say, takes place in Supervillain Team Up number 9. Mm-hmm. Cover dated December of 1976. So both of these books were out on the stands at the same time.
Oh, okay.
These last two. Isn't that neat?
Yeah. That's actually really nice.
Yeah.
Because you get two stories, but you get one big story.
Yeah.
You know, like...
So, yeah. But anyway...
unless your mom only let you buy one comic.
But maybe you got a paper route and you're getting lots of comics.
Yeah,
you're on your own. I wish I had a paper route. I wish I'd been focused on comics when I was a kid.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I loved them then, but was just all over the place.
Yeah.
But anyway, cover art by Gil Kane, pencils, and inked by Dan Adkins. It's a really nice cover.
Yeah.
The Iron Man in battle with Dr. Doom, with the other Avengers fallen at their feet. There is a storyline in the 80s where Dr. Doom and Iron Man are sent back in time to like medieval times. I think by Morgan Le Fay, if I remember correctly. Okay. And they fight / team up. It's really interesting. Great concept. I'm real fuzzy on that, but anyway. Yeah.
I feel like if anyone is gonna be able to take down Doom, it should be Iron Man.
Yeah, except, I mean, as far as technologically based, they should be right on the money with each other. Right. But then Doom has sorcery.
Right.
Iron Man is all tech.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Iron Man and Thor.
Yeah.
Could be, but yeah, stuff. Interesting thing about the cover, I didn't even, before I looked up the credits, I didn't even like immediately recognize it as Gil Kane.
Right, yeah, Gil Kane.
It didn't, because it doesn't jump out and say, oh, Gil Kane. Usually he's very recognizable. Yeah. I think Dan Adkins, he was another one of Wally Wood's assistants.
Right.
And I think Wood's inks over Gil Kane are great. Mm-hmm. And they really highlight the Gil Kane-iness of, if that makes sense, right. The particular things that Gil Kane would do. But this, I feel like, Dan Adkins is good, but he's not as strong an artist as Gil Kane or Woody.
Right.
And I don't mean to insult him, but it's not a great fit.
Yeah, there are a few...
I mean, if you've obscured the pencilers so it's who would ordinarily be immediately recognizable, and you've obscured that to where I don't, there's a problem there. I feel. Okay. But I typically like Dan Adkins.
Yeah.
So, and it's not a bad cover. It's just like
no,
I was just surprised to learn it was Gil Kane because I didn't recognize it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the story in this issue is called Pawns of Attuma, written by Bill Mantlo. The pencil breakdowns were done by Jim Shooter, who it's interesting because we typically think of him as a writer or editor, but he was an occasional penciler, usually just breakdowns.
Gotcha.
But he's basically storyboarding like this is how I want this story to play out. Okay. And then the finished pencils and inks are by Sal Trapani.
So,
who I know, but I'm not overly familiar with. So,
anyway. So, we pick up where kind of a little farther into the future, maybe a day or two.
Sure.
And the Avengers are flying off to a kind of an unknown, undisclosed location at this moment.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
Because I have interesting. Okay, the Avengers issues in this storyline are written by Jerry Conway.
Okay.
And then the supervillain team-up issues are written by Bill Mantlo.
Right.
And so in a situation like this, these guys are probably either meeting up or having phone calls, plotting sessions.
Right,
how are we going to have this play out? Because they're divvying up the work, but it needs to be able to go fairly seamlessly together. Oh, this is just going to fall apart.
Right, yeah. And so it's not an undisclosed location. They are headed towards Hydrobase.
Right. And I'm trying to remember who was the editor-in-chief at this time. Does it say in the page?
Should.
Let me hand me this book.
Yeah.
Keep talking for a second.
They're headed to Hydrobase, where Attuma believes Namor...
Oh, Archie Goodwin's the editor on this. Yeah. Excellent. Keep talking. I'll tell you about Archie Goodwin in a minute.
They're headed to Hydrobase. They are being used by Attuma to fight Namor. And they Cap kind of crash lands into Hydrobase. But as soon as they get there, they actually kind of immediately start battle.
Yeah.
With... Oh, I'm skipping ahead a little bit.
Yeah. Can I pause you again?
Yeah.
So, Jerry Conway is editing his own stuff on the Avengers, which was a thing that was happening in the 70s, and this is before Shooter took over as editor-in-chief in, I think, 78 or 9. You were kind of getting that. Like, yeah, sure, you can... You just kind of own this book and whatever, and you consult with other people when other series are going to interact or intersect with that. And then Archie Goodwin is the editor on Supervillain Team Up. Archie Goodwin was... People loved him as a writer and as an editor. Everybody loved this guy because he was hands-off. He knew what he was a light touch. He let creative people do their thing. He trusted them to go with it. Very night and day from, say, your Jim Shooters or your Mort Weisingers, who were really heavy-handed as editors. And then, so.
Right. So before that, all that kind of the fighting happens, they all land on Hydrobase, all of them with their collars on, and Attuma reminds them.
Oh yeah, did we mention Attuma has fitted the Avengers after Tyrak defeated the Avengers in the Avengers Mansion? He gave them all these control collars, so now they are the slaves of Attuma.
Yes. And he says, you will destroy Submariner, or the Avengers will perish. They get ready to go to Hydrobase. Meanwhile, in Latveria, we have the Shroud, who is unmasked at this point, and Namor, who are surrounded by Latverian soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
And they're brought before Doom, and the men just want Doom to kill them, because why not? That's what Doom does. And he kind of silences them, and he says, no, bring them before me, and they kind of brings him to like a private room, and it's revealed he gives Submariner some of the antidote so Namor can fight still. And Namor gets up, and it's revealed that this isn't Doom. Doom is still at Hydra Base. It doesn't say that they're that he's at Hydra Base, but a Doom bot had taken over Latveria.
And Doom has these in place when he's away or like captured or whatever, so that Latveria doesn't get taken over by revolutionaries. People don't opportunistically, seize power.
Right.
Which is weird because remember that totally happened when the Red Skull took over.
Yeah.
During the stories from Astonishing Tales.
Yeah.
The Doom took a vacation in the Riviera.
Uh-huh.
He must have implemented the Doom bots following that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know the earliest...
Right.
No, wait a sec. He had Doom bots in early issues of Fantastic Four. The Thing smashes a Doom bot in Fantastic Four number 5.
Right, but
so
who knows if he had one watching over Latveria at the time.
Right, okay. He may have implemented things later. Okay.
But the Doom bot has been replaced by none other than Prince Rodolfo.
Yeah, who I totally forgot about. I kind of thought was dead.
Yeah.
Kind of didn't think Rodolfo was going to be coming back.
Yeah, so it's revealed that they had switched the Doom bot with the Rodolfo, like he'd been dressed as a Doom bot, and replaced it, whatever.
Oh yeah, and Rodolfo was talking to Namor and the Shroud.
Yeah.
Because remember, they joined up with the Circus of Crime.
Yeah.
And then got exposed. We talked about that
a
couple weeks ago.
And so the Shroud and Prince Rodolfo are like, hey, we need to take back Latveria from Doom. Let's the three of us can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And Namor's like, no, I don't have time for this. And just kind of leaves.
Yeah.
He says, screw this. I'm out of here. He takes off his kind of like civilian clothing and flies off because he has that antidote. And so the Shroud's like, fine. And he like puts back on his Shroud gear.
His costume.
Yeah. And he's like, all right, let's start this revolution. And him and Prince Rodolfo start to fight. At the same time...
With each other?
No, they start to fight as revolutionaries.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, a follower of Doom starts to try to radio him. And so we get the meanwhile at Hydra Base.
Now, who is the Doom follower is radioing Prince Rodolfo?
Doom.
Doom! Oh! To let him know what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, boy!
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, meanwhile, at Hydra Base, Doom is... what's her name?
He's with Namorita.
Namorita, like, claims that we've, given you all you asked, but you still haven't helped us, become human again. And so it's like...
Well, Namorita's not trying to be human, but the people who had become amphibious...
Yeah.
I thought they did it by choice. Or they were experimented on...
They were experimented on.
Oh, okay.
And they became friends of Namor.
Right.
So, as they're, like, kind of arguing, the receptor comes on, and, like, he's gonna, like, get the message from this follower, Doom is.
Oh, runs the receiver,
and Namorita destroys his receiver, and Doom is pissed.
Well, duh.
Right. But as he's about to, like, fight Namorita, like, he grabs her wrist, plow
the Avengers.
The Avengers. And they start fighting. But instead of Namorita, like, teaming up with the Avengers, she hears them say that they're here for Namor, and that pisses her off.
Because they're family.
Right. And she starts fighting with Doom. And so, obviously, Doom just destroys. There's a pretty big fight scene, and he destroys... Oh, no, that was Attuma. Attuma destroyed part of Iron Man... Not Attuma. Tyrak? Yeah. Had destroyed part of Iron Man's suit.
The part that keeps his heart going.
Right.
So it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
He's really...
Yeah. And so, with a weakened Iron Man, Doom just mops the floor with him.
Yeah.
But we find out that
Back in the States,
yeah.
The Beast, Wonder Man, and the Wizard are hanging out. At the hospital. Yeah. They're visiting the Wizard.
And he convinces Wonder Man and Wizard to come and help the Avengers.
Actually, Wizard convinces them to let him tag along because they're like, "You just had a heart attack."
Right,
but they weren't going to talk him out of it, so he came along.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's a lot of meanwhiles in this issue,
there are several plot threads happening.
Yeah.
Happens
Namor
in team books.
Is flying to Hydra Base.
Yes.
I'm assuming Hydra Base. He might be flying to Atlantis, but whatever.
He's
going towards the water.
He's going to Hydra Base, I think.
And then he's attacked by Latverian the Latvian Air Force.
Oh, right.
And he just kind of like knocks the planes out of the sky. Like he jumps into one, grabs the pilot, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And the pilot's like, "Attuma, it's Attuma." And Namor realizes, "Ah, crap, Attuma will take over the planet if he can." And so he takes off towards Hydro Base again, and he has more information than when he left Latveria. That's kind of how we leave off that issue.
Yeah.
So we'll move along to the Avengers number 155.
That's right.
The January issue.
January of 1977. Although the cover date is usually a couple of months
right
ahead of the actual on sale date.
Uh-huh.
So this would be November of 76.
Okay.
Roughly. It's usually about 2 or 3 months, actually.
Right.
But anyway, great cover, penciled by Jack Kirby and inked by Al Milgrom. Very nice, with just Namor, the Beast, Wonder Man, and the Wizard in battle.
Yep.
And Dr. Doom!
Where's one? Oh, there's one. No, where's one?
There's Wonder Woman getting socked by Namor.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, the story in this issue is called To Stand Alone, written by Jerry Conway. The pencil breakdowns by George Perez, and then the finished pencils and the inks by Pablo Marcos.
Mm-hmm. So we have a bit of a flashback, and it's basically what we just covered.
Right. Well, it's in case you were just coming in at this point with just this issue.
Right.
It's so you won't be lost.
Right.
And I think it's when we're reading these one after another, it feels repetitive.
Yeah.
But it's really important, I think. If you were reading month to month,
yeah,
and it's nice. Like it helps solidify the major plot points in your brain for you're going to remember it later.
Right. So the Avengers have been kind of taken hostage by Namorita and Doom, and have been put in a mind probing device.
Oh man!
And that's where they find out about Attuma's plan, which kind of pisses off Doom. And so we have the Beast, Wonder Man, and Wizard flying towards Hydro Base at this point.
Yeah.
And Wonder Man is giving a recap about who he is, what happened, where he came from, and how he died.
The stuff that I mentioned at the top of the show.
Right, yeah. And
I love Wonder Man.
we find out that he was awakened by the living laser.
Right.
Yeah. And so we have the Avengers kind of just laying on this slab, and they're kind of talking to, they can't do anything, but they're talking to each other, and they're like, well, we got to get out of here so we can, fight. But they realize that the collars that they have on aren't active right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not in the midst of battle. And so the Scarlet Witch, using her witchy ways, gets Cap's shield to him.
Yeah. And
Cap is able to throw it in a way that it breaks the collar on
the Vision.
The Vision. Yeah. And the Vision, he's like, okay, cool. He becomes incorporeal and just kind of flies off and leaves the rest of the Avengers.
Instead of, getting them out of the collars, which is weird.
It's like, what the hell? Where'd your husband just go, Scarlet? What's going on? And we don't really get an answer. But what we do get is this awesome half-page panel of Namor, super pissed, flying towards Hydro Base.
I want to talk about this panel.
Okay.
You'll notice the very pronounced nipples on Namor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And this is, I think, pure Perez. Although it says, Pablo Marcos, but I think this is really Perez art. This is actually the first time Namor had been depicted with nipples.
Really?
Yeah. And it was kind of controversial at the time, because you just don't depict nipples.
Okay.
It's a Code Era thing.
Right.
And who cares? It's a man.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares if it's a gal? To me. But, it's odd. It's a strange little footnote. But
I didn't even give it two thoughts.
Yeah, but it's funny. A couple weeks before we read this issue, I saw this panel isolated and talked about a "Did you know?" kind of meme on Facebook.
Oh,
I was like, oh, and I had kind of, I think, heard that, and then realized it was this issue.
Gotcha.
So that's a thing. But carrying on.
We have Namor proclaiming that Attuma will pay a price most dear.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Namor's not going to stop with just taking out Attuma. He's going to try to do something terrible to him.
Well, probably. It is Namor. He's not really a nice guy.
Right.
He doesn't really handle his enemies with kid gloves.
Right. So Attuma comes to Hydra Base. He sees that the Avengers are kind of... I think he's at Hydra Base. Yeah, he's at Hydra Base. But as he approaches, so do Beast, Wizard, and Wonder Man.
Yeah.
And they get into this awesome fight.
Attuma thinks the Wizard is Quicksilver.
Right.
Because he doesn't get a good look at him because he's running.
Yeah.
So
At one point, he shouts, "Jumping Jolly Jehoshaphat," which is always fun.
who says that? The Beast, right?
The Beast, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of
they're
people
kind of getting tore up by Attuma.
Yeah. The Beast in the Avengers is really where he kind of like became a distinct and interesting character.
Okay.
In his Silver Age X-Men stuff, he's just kind of the smart guy, the verbose guy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a whole lot of character development with him.
And I guess if you have...
But in the 70s, when he had a short run of solo stuff in, I think, Amazing Adventures, and he became the blue furry guy, and then he joined the Avengers, the character really became, no pun intended, a different animal.
Right.
And became a lot more interesting. So, and actually, a lot of people prefer the Beast as an Avenger as opposed to an X-Man.
Oh, okay.
So
while they're fighting, Attuma notices that Namor is coming.
Yeah.
And as they're fighting, he kind of like points to Namor and he says, "Come, my friends, our common enemy draws near. Let us have the first blow. Kill Namor now."
Whoa.
And all the three Avengers are like, what?
Yeah.
No. And
like, they're not exactly pals with Namor, but they don't want to kill anybody.
right. And Namor's like, "All right, fine. I'm going to take you all on." Because I think Attuma knows that he has no power over Namor.
Right.
You know, and like, because...
Well, duh. If he went to such great lengths to take control of the Avengers and sick them on Namor for him,
right.
Of course he knows he's no match for him.
So they all start fighting, but then Namor kind of realizes something as he's fighting Wizard. The Wizard says, give the man a cigar," and it kind of like clicks something in Namor's head.
Namor remembers the Wizard from their, how they were comrades in arms back in World War II.
Right, he says, "You're Robert Frank, the Wizard, member of the Old Liberty Legion." And he's like, "But if you're not Quicksilver, why?" And he's like nailed by this giant piece of like structure.
Equipment, whatever, that's thrown at him by who? Wonder Man?
Yeah. And gets a nice, looks like a left hook to the face from Wonder Man.
Yeah, Wonder Man's a real butt kicker.
Yeah.
Love Wonder Man.
Lays Namor out, but kind of like we finally get a picture into where
the story's going next.
The Vision went.
Oh yeah, where'd the Vision go?
So the Vision went back and he found Doctor Doom.
There we go.
And,
that's what we say.
As Doctor Doom pulls his gun on him, the Vision's like, "Look, I'm going to make a deal with you, and if you make this deal, you're going to survive." And Doom's like, "Well, I kind of like me surviving." And that's kind of where we're like left off.
Right. Good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And this will continue in Avengers number 156, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say before we...
No, again, just
wrap
remember
it up?
we're on iTunes and Stitcher. You can rate and review us there, and you can also subscribe to us there.
Yeah.
So, that's all I got.
Cool. So, next week...
Green Lantern.
Yes, we'll wrap up Showcase Presents Green Lantern Volume 3.
Yeah.
And then in 2 weeks, we'll continue on in Supervillain Team Up.
Yep.
Until then.